Welcome to The Way the World Works, where the trusted team behind the Tuttle Twins books tackles current events, hot topics, and fun ideas to help your family find clarity in a world full of confusion.
Hi, Connor.
Hey, Brittany.
So I think a lot of people, young and old, know Taylor Swift. I think she is probably known by everyone at this point. And I'll admit, I always have to go out of my way to say I'm not a Swiftie, but I also have to admit that all the songs I know how to play on the piano are Taylor Swift, just because she sings in the same key as I do.
That's
So
funny.
even though I pretend like, oh, I don't like her, uh, that and I spent when I was a poor intern in DC, I spent more money than I had on concert tickets. So once upon a time I was. But yeah, so I really admire her even though I don't really love her music anymore. And that is because I think her success is a really powerful story. She's also been disrupting a lot of the way the music industry and even the film industry works. So there's a lot of good lessons. But I've heard a lot of people say lately that she's getting too big, that she has too much control over the music industry today. I've even heard people throw around the term like monopoly on music, which a monopoly is, where one entity, one business or one person, has too much power. At least that's what people think it is, right? And they hear that and then you think, well, yeah, she does have too much power. So she must have, a monopoly on music. But I want to kind of talk about this today because there's actually different kinds of monopolies, so to speak. And Taylor Swift is not the bad kind. So I want to get into this. There's something called like a natural monopoly and a government monopoly. And so you hear the word natural, you think something that happens on its own, right? Almost like spontaneous order. It's spontaneous. It happens. It just happens. And with Taylor Swift, she's not getting, at least to my knowledge, Connor, she is not getting any subsidies from the government. Though who knows? I don't think so, at least. And so she's doing this all on her own. And so she's made a name for herself. She's working hard, she's touring, she's breaking all these records with selling, like I think she sold out both concert tickets, and her tour just came to like the movie theater, and it was also like the fastest selling like movie like tickets sold out within a couple minutes. So crazy. She's crazy success. But all of this is happening on her own, right? Nobody is propping her up or giving her, a leg up, and the government's not saying you have to listen to Taylor Swift. So maybe it's a monopoly in the fact that she's so good, people are going to her, right? Like imagine if a store is so good, everyone wants to shop there, but then other stores are like, "Oh no, but that's a monopoly." But it's not a bad monopoly if it just happens. Now let's talk about a bad monopoly. Connor, have you ever been to the post office?
Ugh. Just
Yes.
today, I was talking with our office manager, and she was going to the post office, and I was remembering the early years of the Tuttle Twins, where I would go to the post office every single day to drop off the orders that people had placed, and standing in line and having to drop it off, and these workers who did not care about customer service. They just looked miserable, and there were always problems with our orders. So, oh yeah, yeah, definitely, it's a problem.
And I don't think any of us would choose to go there. In fact, sometimes I almost admire how little they care about their job when I go to the post office. And the thing is it's cuz they don't have to, because the post office gets so much money from the government. So we don't have another choice. If you want to send a letter in the mail, you have to go to the post office. There are things like UPS and FedEx, but those are for packages. It's actually in the law that you have to send letters through the post office. So that's a truly bad monopoly. That's a monopoly where the government is giving you literally no choice. You have to use the post office. And because of that, it's an awful organization. I think it was this year they were like bragging that they were going to be like under budget this year. As it turns out, they're $6 billion over budget.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's just known for waste and also incompetency. Like they lose stuff all the time.
Oh, all the time. I could
All the
tell you all
time.
kinds of stories. And Brittany, to your point about the post office being a government monopoly, um, where we have to send letters through this organization if we want to, use a postal service. There was someone named Lysander Spooner,
Mhm.
who you and I both read some of his stuff. He's a very interesting philosopher in the 1800s who was, as kind of a side project, he started his own mail company, even knowing that it was illegal. He was challenging this Congress action, because when you look at the Constitution gives Congress the authority to establish post roads, postal roads. And so, interpreted, I think, properly, what that means is that the federal government has the power to make sure that there are like highways and transport for postal services to be able to connect us to one another and send correspondence and packages and whatnot. So the Constitution says establish post roads. It does not say establish a postal service, that the government has to be the kind of monopoly, as you point out, to be the ones doing this. So along comes Spooner, and he says, I think you're only allowed to do post roads. This is unconstitutional. I'm going to start my own company. And so he does. I think it was called like the American Mail Letter Company or something like that. I didn't pull it up. But he starts this company, and Congress gets super mad. And they go and they pass yet another law to basically like double down on the existing one and close some loopholes that Spooner had found. And so they made it even more of a monopoly, is the point. And basically explicitly made Spooner's business illegal, put him out of business. And so that's so crazy that here was this opportunity to create some competition. As I think all of our listeners know, when you have a monopoly, the prices go up.
Hmm.
You don't have competition, so you can charge whatever you want. So the prices go up and the quality goes down, just like you're talking about these postal workers who don't really care about their job. They don't have an incentive to care. So the price goes up, the quality goes down. That's a monopoly. When you have competition, it's the reverse. You have prices going down because you have to try and win business from your competitors, and you want people to come shop with you, so prices start going down. And then the quality goes up, because in order to compete, not only do you need to have good prices, but you have to have a good service. Otherwise, people are going to go somewhere else. And so a government monopoly doesn't let you do that. Just like, the government schools, back when homeschooling was illegal, and you didn't really have school choice laws like you do now in many states that are popping up, the school system basically had a government monopoly. And there wasn't really any competition, which meant that prices went up, the cost to taxpayers went up, and the quality goes down. So I think it's right for you, Brittany, to point out there's a difference here between a government monopoly with, the post office as an example, or government schools, versus something like Taylor Swift, because you would agree, Brittany, that no one has to listen to Taylor Swift. I
Nope.
don't listen to her. You and I were joking before we started recording that I think the only song of hers I've heard is the "Shake It Off" one, and then you pointed out that that's like a decade old. So
Yes.
clearly I'm behind the times. But I don't have to listen to Taylor Swift. I can listen to ska music, which I love. Everyone's like, "Wait, what's
That is
ska
an
music?"
outdated it's an outdated reference,
That
Connor.
shows you that I grew up in San Diego in the
Yes.
1990s. So that's me. But I can listen to whatever I want. So can you. So like, Brittany, let me offer another example. Tuttle Twins was itself a natural monopoly for many years. When we started writing these books, a lot of people, even people who kind of agree with us and believe in freedom, a lot of people are like, do we need to teach kids about this stuff? Like, let kids be kids, and we can talk to them when they're older about these ideas. And so we were having to try and like persuade people, no, it's important to talk to kids about these ideas. But no one was doing it, especially on kind of the quote unquote right, the conservatives, libertarians. Um, so for a number of years, we were the only ones doing it. And as we started to have success and things took off, especially because people on the so-called left, the progressives and the liberals, or whatever you want to call them, they had all these kids books. They were teaching all this, like, anti-racist baby and all the gender stuff, and socialism for kids and all this kinds of stuff. And so on the so-called right, we were the only ones doing this. And I always laughed with people. I said, "Oh yeah, we basically have a monopoly because we don't have any competition." The other part of me said, "I wish we had competition because I think that makes everybody better, and it helps us all collectively reach even more people." Like, for me, the Tuttle Twins is a mission. It's not about I want all the customers to be mine and only mine. It's about trying to change the world and improve the world. and I need allies. I need other people who can reach, families that I can't reach, and get them to learn about this stuff. And so now in recent years, you've got, all kinds of folks. You've got Brave Books that are doing theirs. You've got PragerU is doing some books. You have, there's some called, I think, Heroes of Liberty. And so you've got a number of other people who've started producing children's literature that teach, somewhat conservative or libertarian ideas. I think, we're the best for obvious reasons I could get into, but there are many other people, and I think that's great, because now there's more choice. There's, we're broadening the tent. We're all reaching more people. But we, for a time, were a natural monopoly. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Brittany, is I can really relate to Taylor Swift, and we're BFFs at this point. No, I wish I had the bank account that she did. I'm the poor version of Taylor Swift, I guess you can say.
There was a really funny article, this is where I got the idea for this, written where, somebody talked about how, how nobody would call Taylor Swift like a monopoly and try to regulate her because everybody loves her, right? That's one of those things where even people who don't like her still kind of respect what she's doing. The FCC, that's the federal, oh my goodness, what is it? It's federal, wait, FTC, Federal Trade, is it Commission, Connor?
I think so,
I
yeah.
always get all these letters mixed up. So they're the ones who control like the market, essentially. Like, this person's too powerful. This is like, they would squash what they think are monopolies. They would never come after Taylor Swift, right? That would be silly. But they go after Amazon all the time, and they say Amazon's a monopoly. We need to make laws. And my favorite excuse they make to do this is sometimes they'll say Amazon's prices are too low, and this isn't fair. And it's like, there's crazy reasons for why they're saying that that's how it got a monopoly. Now other stores can't compete. At the end of the day, I would use anything Amazon came up with. Amazon has like a healthcare, like telehealth now. Even like they have so many great things at such an affordable price that the people are going, like, flocking to Amazon, right? Even people I know that pretend to hate capitalism love the 2-day shipping, and they still order things
Hmm.
on Amazon. And so it's funny when you look at that. If you were to tell somebody, "Oh, we need to regulate Taylor Swift," they would laugh and they'd make a joke. But then you tell somebody, "We need to regulate Amazon," and then it's, "Yes, we do. They're a monopoly." And so it's just kind of a funny comparison to make, to really get the point across to people who think that these monopolies are so bad. And it could be argued, obviously, when there are some things where their governments give subsidies, and that is an unfair leg up, right? That is something that the government is propping up, but still nothing like the post office or Amtrak, the trains that the government
Mm.
actually runs that. And I don't know if you've ever been on Amtrak. I unfortunately have. Every time I'm like, oh yeah, the train will be fun. It's never fun. Don't do it. It's never fun. And utility companies too, which is they really grind my
Mhm.
gears. You don't have a choice of where you get your electricity. Now, you could do solar and stuff like that, but as far as electricity and gas and water, you don't you don't have a choice. You have to go to where the government tells you to go. So yeah, I just thought this was an interesting topic to talk about, and especially interesting that when somebody brings up something like Amazon and condemning this market monopoly, I say that in scare quotes. Think about Taylor Swift, who's also technically, and I guess say this in scare quotes again, a monopoly. There are good and bad monopolies. So yeah.
Well, and even like in tech, people have often accused Apple or Google or Microsoft as being monopolies, and like Google for their search engine, which like everybody uses. And the FTC, that government entity that you're pointing out, has often gone after these companies and sued them and made them pay millions of dollars in legal fees to fight the government and defend themselves. When I'm like, look, at one point in time, MySpace was a monopoly.
Yep.
Facebook was a monopoly, and in the kind of quote unquote sense of the term, right? Like they were kind of a natural monopoly. There wasn't a lot of competition. Nobody uses MySpace anymore, and increasingly fewer people use Facebook now. And so, same with Google. If it ever gets to the point where people don't like Google and don't like, the services that they're providing, they'll stop and they'll go elsewhere, which a lot of people do right now. They'll go to DuckDuckGo or, something, or use their Brave browser search and other things. So just because a lot of people like something, whether it's Taylor Swift's, music, or Amazon, or using Google, that doesn't make it a monopoly in the true sense of the term. The true problematic sense of the term is when the government gets involved and says, we're going to give you special privileges and prohibit everybody else, from having these. We're going to treat you, special. The government should just stay out of it, let the market handle this. And if the company ever goes wrong or does something that consumers don't like, they'll choose something else. And we see again and again how these big companies that people think, oh, they're a monopoly, pretty soon they lose, all their customers or a lot of them because they shift and go elsewhere. That's the market at work. So not all monopolies are created equal, I guess, is the takeaway. As well as I need to go brush up on my Taylor Swift because my daughter is a Swiftie and I can't relate to her at all. So I guess I need to go listen to some music. Brittany, great chatting with you. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
You've been listening to The Way the World Works. Make sure your family is subscribed and check out TuttleTwins.com for more awesome content.